Creating good poetry is about being honest and true to yourself. Good poetry comes from a place that's deep inside us, and it's a very personal place. It requires us to be vulnerable and be willing to be vulnerable, to reach out to our audience and to have empathy with them, but so they can have empathy with us as well. So what we're going to be working on this week is drafting and then revising and creating a poem that reaches those deeper places within ourselves. Because it's such a personal poem, the steps that I'm asking you to take this week, you don't have to share it with anyone besides myself. You're welcome to, if you would like to share it, please do. But I think that I've found anyways, that students are more willing to be honest and true if they realize that they don't have to, read it in front of the class or something like that. This series of lessons, or this series of steps on how to create a poem, how to create a good poem, is based on a lesson by Taylor Mali, who is a really good and a fairly well-known poet. And you can see the link there where you can find the original lesson. I often talk kind of disparagingly about fill-in-the-blanks poetry, like acrostics or five senses poems. It smells like, it tastes like, it sounds like. And it's somewhat ironic because that's more or less what I'm asking you to do here. But I'm asking you to think really deeply about yourself and your life and your experiences as you do it. So it's not, don't fill in the blanks with something that is easy and superficial. Really think about it. So our poem draft is going to start off with this. You're going to write a line that uses this phrase, but you fill in the blanks. Don't worry too much about line breaks right now. Just write down the sentences and fill them in. We'll worry about line breaks when it comes to revision. And in each of the blanks, use more than one word to fill it in. Be honest, take a risk. If you need to adapt the phrasing a little bit, you can do that. So my example is down below. Before I realized that I cared more about what the world thought of me than the world actually cared about me, I used to believe that my worth was only found in what I could do for other people. Pause this if you need to, and write that line, not mine, write your own line before you move on to the next slide. Again, you're going to write a line that begins with this phrase and you're filling in the blanks. And I want you to use a metaphor that describes you. Remember, metaphors are where you compare two things that are completely not like each other, but without using like or as. The example that I gave in our last lesson was the sun is a lion leaping over the horizon. The sun is not actually a lion, but that idea of power and the color and the grace, that's what we're trying to evoke with that metaphor. So people think I'm blank, but I am blank. Again, use more than one word. My example, people think I'm a blank piece of paper they can use or write on or fold any way they want, but I am covered in writing invisible to those who do not care to read it. Again, pause, fill it in, come up with your own metaphor to describe yourself, two metaphors, I suppose, and then move on. For this one, you're going to write three fairly short sentences that all begin with, I am the one who. My example, I am the one who smiles on the surface while storms rage inside. I am the one who sacrifices in order to ease the lives of others. I am the one who is slowly learning that who I am is more important than what I do for the people around me. Remember, reach down, be vulnerable, be honest, try and find descriptions of yourself that get at the essence of who you are. Pause the slide and then move on when you're ready. This next one is kind of fun. Write a sentence that begins with, "In the circus of my family." So mine is, "In the circus of my family, time has tamed the lion, and the ringmaster has ceded control. But the trapeze artists must continue their aerial dance until the end of the show." A couple of vocab notes: ceded means given up, and then their aerial dance is dance in the air, because trapeze artists, swing about in the air. Move on when you're ready. This one doesn't have a starter sentence to it, but it asks you to write the most honest observation that you can about yourself. Take a risk, be vulnerable. My example: I always thought that there would be a point where I could say, "I am grown up." If there is one, though, I haven't found it yet. I'm still learning who I am. Pause and write, and then continue. This one, every time I do this with kids, with my students, they think it's a little creepy. And maybe it is, but it's also kind of fun as well. So for this one, again, there's no sentence starter. There's just a description of what you need to do. Write about the exact time and circumstance in which you will come back to haunt the living if you died tragically, or write about how and by whom you are haunted. So, if you died tragically, what would make you come back to haunt the living? When would you do it? Why would you do it? Or, again, like it said, write about how and by whom you are haunted. So I couldn't really think of that first one. I went with the second prompt for this one. At 3:23 in the morning, when my eyes are burning and my mind cannot go quiet for thinking about the days ahead and the mistakes behind, my grandmother sneaks in to hover over my bed and whisper in my ear, "You are worthy, you are loved, you are in desperate need of sleep." Pause, write, and then move forward when you're ready. So that's our first draft. Before you leave it for today, I want you to pick one of the prompts that you've just written and revise it so that it includes a vivid color. We'll talk about the revision process in a moment, but before you sort of stop this drafting process, find something where you could add that specific color to it. I chose the one about being a blank piece of paper, and revised it to be, "People think I'm a blank piece of paper they can use or write on or fold any way they want, but I am covered in scarlet words, invisible to those who do not care to read them." And that addition of the color of scarlet, which is a shade of red, it evokes certain things, and it helps my audience picture, visualize what I'm saying in a way that the line didn't when I didn't have that vivid color added to it. So you can pause for today. This poem should be finished the second day that we're working on it. And our next step is going to be to revise it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through and put all of your sentences together. and then decide where you want to break the lines. Remember, we've talked about line breaks as being a way of drawing the reader's attention to certain aspects. We've talked about line breaks as needing sort of balance, and not super long and super short. Your sentences should not be generally on a single line. You should break them up. You want to look at the words that you're using. You may want to include more vivid descriptions or more precise words in your revision. And you need to come up with the poem's title. So in the next few slides, that's what I have. It is what my final revision looked like with line breaks and things like that. So I'm just going to play those for you now.
Before I realized that I cared more about what the world thought of me than the world actually cared about me, I used to believe that my worth was only found in what I could do for those around me. People think I'm a blank piece of paper they can use or write on or fold any way they want, but I am covered in scarlet words, invisible to those who do not care to read them. I am the one who smiles on the surface while storms rage inside. I am the one who sacrifices my time in order to provide time for others. I am the one who is slowly learning that who I am is more than what I do for the people around me. In the circus of my family, time has tamed the lion and the ringmaster has ceded control. But the trapeze artists must continue their aerial dance until the end of the show. I always thought there would be a point where I could say, I am a grown-up. If there is, though, I haven't found it yet. I am still learning who I am. At 3:23 in the morning, when my eyes are burning, and my mind cannot go quiet for thinking about the needs ahead and the mistakes behind, my grandmother's spirit whispers in my ear, "You are worthy. You are loved. You are in desperate need of rest. Go to sleep, child.